What's good, Ravens fans? It's your boy JG, and we are back by popular demand with the topic I did before, the reason that the Eagles made the Super Bowl and things that the Ravens can learn from them. And now I'm going to do things that the Ravens can learn from the Chiefs as they're the other participant in the Super Bowl. And it won't just be the Ravens organization, it'll jump around. But let's just get into it with topic number one. But first, like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that great stuff. We talk about the Ravens all the time. So, first thing that I want to talk about in relation to the Chiefs is that you have to have a great play caller in order to have an advantage on these teams. This doesn't only go for the Chiefs, but it's most pronounced with them because they were able to win a game with Patrick Mahomes on one leg, and at the end of that game, no receivers in the starting lineup were in that game, right? They had backups in that game, extra tight ends in that game, but they were still able to win that game, and Patrick Mahomes was still able to throw for a lot of yards, partly because of Patrick Mahomes, but also because of the great play calling that they have, right? They always have an option for Patrick Mahomes, right? Sometimes we see the Ravens now without Greg Roman. This is going to change. But in the past, the Ravens have ran 4 curls. You need 8 yards, and everyone's running to the first down and turning around. Well, if a defense knows your plays, which most defenses know the offensive plays, right? They study these things. So if they know, then they're going to be on that, and that leaves Lamar Jackson with nothing, right? We need the ability for Lamar Jackson to go through his progressions and always find someone open. Now, it won't always work because, it takes time to go through your progressions. Sometimes the defense makes a great play, a great adjustment. But Patrick Mahomes, many times, is throwing to wide open players, right? I know a lot of greatness of Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes being great, right? I know how great Travis Kelce is. Guys, Travis Kelce is the number 1 tight end in the league, arguably the number 2 tight end in NFL history based on his stats. And there's 2 to 3 plays each game where he is so open, I could throw him the ball, right? I mean, he is so open, right? The Ravens really don't have plays like that where our receivers are so open that it's a crime for us not to hit them. Now, maybe once a game, but the Chiefs have that 5 times a game, right? We got to be able to incorporate some of those easy completions, easy touchdowns into the playbook. And you have to be able to do it not just by tricking your opponent, right? Not just by bootlegging and then sneaking someone out the back, right? Every team does that. But the great teams scheme it, right? If you look at, for example, the 49ers, who were in the Final Four but lost, they scheme their players open, right? They look at your defense, they look at the rules, and they exploit the rules of your defense, right? We see this a lot, and a lot of teams, are good at scheming against defense. But for some reason, the Ravens say, "Hey, this is what we do. We're gonna do it, and you can't stop us." Well, the truth is that you can't do it that way. The Chiefs don't do that, right? The Chiefs throw the ball, and that's their way. But sometimes they throw it short for a lot. Sometimes they throw it deep for a lot of yards. They do it based on the scheme of the defense, and you have to be flexible in this league in order to be successful. So that's the first thing. The Ravens have to improve their offensive scheme and be able to attack defenses in multiple ways in the passing game, similar to the Chiefs in their offensive play call. The second thing that I think the Ravens have to learn from the Chiefs is simple. The quarterback can do it, right? Again, and this is something that is actually going more to Lamar. And a lot of critics who doubt Lamar are going to say, "Hey, Lamar, you see what Patrick Mahomes did? He led his team. He put the team on his back." And the answer is yes, he definitely did. And Lamar Jackson, I think, can do it too. Now, is he going to do it the same way? Of course not. But we've seen Lamar lead the team single-handedly. We've seen Lamar lead the team in rushing and, of course, passing. We've seen Lamar score every touchdown in the game before, right? I think he can lead this team, similar to how Patrick Mahomes led the team. But it speaks volumes of Patrick Mahomes and hopefully one day of Lamar Jackson to know that if you're just good enough at quarterback, you can get it done in this league still, right? And a lot of teams go with the team approach, right? But the truth is Patrick Mahomes, arguably on offense, now defense played really well, but on offense was single-handedly dominating that game because he didn't have any of his receivers that he's used to, right? Travis Kelce, was Travis Kelce, so he's always going to be great. But, again, any receiver, 50% of their production comes from the greatness of their quarterback, right? So it's just an amazing, amazing thing that Patrick Mahomes did. And I think the Ravens, but specifically Lamar Jackson, have to go and see that and say, look, I can do it. I can lead this team, especially if my defense plays well. And the Ravens, that's how the Ravens built their team. Now, you shouldn't build your team like that. You should go get receivers who are good receivers. And again, I know you guys don't agree, but Juju Smith-Schuster is better than every receiver on our roster. I'm sorry, he is. If he was on the Ravens, he'd be the number one receiver. And he's not even that good, in my opinion, right? So we just got to take all of that into account. That Lamar Jackson has to look at this game. He's a Raven, so I'm including him in there and say, wow, Patrick Mahomes single-handedly said, I can do this. And he did it. And that has to mean something for the Ravens. So that's the second takeaway. A quarterback of greatness can single-handedly get your team to where it needs to be, especially on a game-by-game basis. So, and the third one, guys, is simply not specifically about a specific player on the Ravens, but it's about the defense. And what I'm going to say is, of course, an obvious thing. However, it was amazing to see the Chiefs' defense rise to the occasion. In many cases, they did. Now, sometimes they got beat, 100% for sure. But that is the best, in my opinion, the best case scenario for a defense in the National Football League. You're not going to dominate great teams. We saw the San Francisco defense, which was one of the best defenses all year long. You can't win games against the best of the best of the best holding teams down to 14 points in this league anymore. However, what you can do is you can get interceptions and you can get sacks. What you can do is make it harder for a quarterback like Joe Burrow to be comfortable. And I think right now, the Ravens have the pieces on defense to be that defense without adding anything. Again, you're going to have to depend on one of these cornerbacks to step up. That's not, Marlon Humphrey, right? You're going to have to get rid of some of these safeties, get, maybe another defensive tackle or something like that. But you have to depend on a defense that is less talented but can rise to the occasion versus an offense that's less talented but can rise to the occasion. And that's what the Chiefs did. Their defense, which we all know has issues, but when you can scheme, when you are locked in, you can rise to the occasion, and a good offense gives you a chance, right? The fact of the matter is that if someone told me, hey, my offense is going to score 14 points, but my defense is going to hold them to 17, okay. Or you can say, my offense is going to score 35 points, and your defense is going to hold them to 31, right? The reason that you would take the 35 to 31 is simply, and I know this is against our DNA as Baltimore Ravens fans. I understand that. I love a good defensive game. But the reason that you take the 35 to 31 is that it's incredibly hard to score 31 points on a bad defense. It's incredibly hard, right? On a good defense, it's nearly impossible. But it's easy to score 17 points regardless of the defense, right? One broken coverage, which can happen to anybody, and one good drive gets you 14 points. And then a field goal kicker gets you the other 3. Let's just say something like a defensive touchdown on the other side, like what happened to us in the game versus the Bengals. You can't win those games when your offense can only get you 2 touchdowns. You cannot win those games. And so that is how we need to build our team. We need to build our team offense first, defense second. Because when you do it the other way, the math doesn't math. And that's just simply it. You have to build your team to score 35 points because anyone scoring 35 points is hard. When you build your team to hold teams to 14 points, they can easily get 17, 21 points, right? And your defense can play great. We've seen this happen to the Ravens this year. Your defense can play excellent, excellent, excellent football, but you fumble and they return it for a touchdown. A special teams touchdown happens. You miss a field goal. Well, now your math is off, right? Now, not only are you down and your defense has to continue to hold them, which is incredibly difficult, but now your offense that's only built to score 14 points without Lamar Jackson has to now get to 20, 24 points. And impossible. It's impossible. And we saw it this year where the Ravens, after Lamar Jackson in the regular season, only scored a touchdown in every single game, right? Everything else was field goals, which is an insane stat. So you guys let me know what you think. Just to recap, again, first, you got to have better play calling, a better scheme. An elite scheme helps your players be elite, and we've seen that with the Chiefs. Second, Lamar Jackson has to look at what Patrick Mahomes did and say, hey, I can be that great too. I can lead this team if I don't have the pieces, and that's exactly what happened. And then three, and finally, build your team where your defense has to step up to the challenge and outperform versus your offense, because if your offense is only expected to score 14 points, you're going to lose those games. And so we know that from experience, and that's just what the truth is. So you guys let me know in the comments below how you feel. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Thanks, and go Ravens.